Honestly, I just found this entire thing really interesting. While it's not, I don't think, anything new particularly, I think the way that it's developed in this fandom in specific, especially in recent time, is just something I wanted to ramble a little bit about. So do bear with me here. While I think the Invincible fandom slowly starting to die down, after season 3's release on Prime Video, Invincible got extremely popular, especially on spaces like TikTok again, and I think with that brought in a bunch of new people also. And I guess I kind of wanted to discuss some of the interesting shifts I've seen on there. So I think the fandom from the comics and the people coming from the show are very different, because I feel like people coming from the comics have specific demographics which the comics were catered to, while the Prime Video version is really expanding the demographics for the show. And I think it's really interesting to see how these two different sides of the fandom clash with each other, and just how different their views on things can be, especially when it comes down to characters and just general fandom interactions. So, for context, I've grown up in the type of fandoms that animation memes are very normal, so are headcanons, everything. So, to see that happen with the Invincible fandom is like nothing new to me, right? It's the same thing that's kind of happened with basically every other fandom I've been in, but watching this happen in real time has made me realize that that's not the same experience for every person interacting with their favorite pieces of media. Like, for some people, animation memes are a completely foreign thing, and that's really surprising to me. And I think that puts into perspective just how wide of a range the internet can have. Because for some people, headcanon fan art, queer shipping, and animation trends that have shown up with the Invincible characters in fandom, they haven't really taken very kindly to that. And I've seen a lot of people say that they really don't like the animation memes and that people are ruining the fandom. And it's just, I guess, strange to me, because that's always just been the norm in the fandom spaces I've been in. And so, I think it's very interesting because the comics themselves were very oriented towards the male demographic, or just the teenage boy demographics, and I'm sure this is not a new thing, where there's this small group within a male-dominated fandom. Namely, what comes to mind are things like catered towards teenage boys, like Ninjago, the type of fandom. So to watch that demographic expand and then bring in what I'm used to in fandom and how other people have reacted to that, I don't know. I think TikTok specifically has a large play in these two types of fandoms butting heads with each other. I think these types of fandoms usually don't interact with each other very often. Like, there's spaces dedicated on other websites just for those types of fandoms, forums or Tumblr. So usually these types of fandoms don't really intersect with each other in this way. But because of the lack of expansion that most of the newer generations have, where they don't usually go to those types of fandom spaces and they all just crowd together on one platform, specifically TikTok, you're more likely to, I think, experience and interact other types of fandoms, and that goes for everything too. There's just so many different types of spaces on TikTok that just kind of happen to intersect because of the way that the For You page works and the algorithms themselves. Even though different types of fandoms do exist on other spaces like YouTube and whatever, they're not as likely to stumble across each other in the way that it happens on TikTok. So it's more likely for these people to come across fan art, headcanons, and of course that leads to a lot of contention within the fandom. I guess it's just been really surprising, and while I haven't seen a lot of it because, again, that sort of like hype train for Invincible is dying down, but I'm sure it's going to spike up again as the seasons come out. I don't know. I think it's worth discussing, at least a little bit, how the narrowing down of social media platforms just to like one space has really changed the way that people interact with each other just generally, not even just confined to the fandom-wise thing. As always, I love discussing this. I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. And of course, if you're used to different types of fandoms like the ones I've described outside of the ones I'm experienced with, I'd love to hear your thoughts on just how connecting of fandoms has been for people who aren't used to this type of thing. And yeah, that's all. Bye.